What is going on, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Fantasy Alarm Sports Talk, brought to you by Fantasy Alarm TV. I'm your host, Howard Bender. With me today, of course, Adam Ronis. This seems to be our nice little, our Tuesday regular segment here, Adam, which is great because let's face it, we can all use a little bit of structure, a little bit of scheduling, and a little bit of normalcy in all our lives right now.
Yeah, we're trying. Obviously, it's been, a couple of months now, and just trying to get through this, and hopefully we can get some sports back soon. I mean, the real sports. I know, just not. I know there's a lot of MMA fans out there. Great. Congratulations to you. Golf will be back, NASCAR, but, really looking forward to hopefully getting baseball and basketball soon.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Any chance you saw that article from the Washington Post, Norman Chad, talking about in the pandemic, if we've learned anything, that we need less sports in our lives, not more sports in our lives?
I saw the headline and didn't want to read it because I thought, again, and here's the thing too, working at a newspaper, the reporter doesn't write the headline. It's the editor. So like I would get a lot of emails sometimes about headlines on my story, and I'm like, I didn't write the headline because sometimes the headlines are misleading. And obviously today, especially with the internet, a lot of it is clickbait. They're trying to draw attention. Obviously, he did a great job on that. I did not read the article. I just think it's ludicrous. I did see you tweet out something that you kind of saw the point. So you read the article. Obviously, I did it. I just like for me, and maybe I'm not the exception because there's a lot of people like me, but sports is kind of a lot of what I base things around. A lot of my schedule and what I do is based around sports. I've just been a huge sports fan since a kid. So the fact that they're trying to say, oh, yeah, we're better around sports, I completely disagree with that. Now, to be fair, I should have read it before I came to that conclusion, but I'm pretty sure there's nothing that can be written that's going to change my mind on that. Sports is better.
But yeah, right. But it's not what he was saying, and that was the interesting part of the article.
So the headline was misleading?
The headline was a little inflammatory. Again, in this age of clickbait on the internet, that's what they're looking for. But it was more. I mean, it was written in humor. It was written in a little bit of satire. But the basic gist of it is that yes, we want our baseball and our football and our basketball and our hockey back. We don't need AAF or XFL. We don't need, we're sitting here talking about the top 75, like ESPN was ranking the top 75 sneakers worn by players. And so that was the point really that he was making, is that all of this is, as we in the sports industry, desperately fish for any kind of shred of content to sit and discuss and to talk about, that maybe we should be focusing our lives and our attention on more important things like the good things that are happening to the environment with this shelter in place, that, maybe we don't go backwards and just go back to doing exactly what we were doing before. Maybe we don't worry about springtime football, that it's not really that necessary, that we've just become as a society, and that's sports fans in general, we've just been so reliant on it to scratch that gambling itch, to scratch that sports itch, that all of a sudden we're creating things. Now, it's like he in the middle of the article, he throws down this George Carlin segment talking about how swimming is not a sport. Swimming is a way to prevent yourself from drowning. All right. Sailing is not a sport. Sailing is a matter of transportation to get you from point A to point B. All of a sudden that we've created all these sports around it, and now all of a sudden we're worried about DFS badminton taking place in China right now as to what it is. And that was the general point of it. But yeah, man, everybody was just bashing that article without even reading it. And I was just like, it was very reminiscent of when I was writing my Kicking Rocks column for Fangraphs, and all these stat nerds were like, "What is this article without any statistics and all of these outlandish points of view?" Like that kind of a situation there. And that I can't argue against. I cannot argue against getting rid of some of these ancillary sports. And judging by what you just said about MMA, I think you kind of agree with it.
There's certain sports I'm just not into, and everyone has different tastes, and that's fine. I did have the MMA when it was on regular ESPN on for a bit. Wasn't glued to the TV screen. I don't remember what else I was doing, but it was on, so I would glance up.
Rearranging your sock drawer, watching some
Probably,
paint
yeah.
dry.
Probably, yeah, texting. I don't know, whatever I was doing. Maybe making my pick in a slow draft. Who knows? But yeah, there's just certain sports that I'm just not into, and I see people that are just forcing themselves to watch stuff just because they want, and I can't. Again, if the KBO was on at better times, I'd probably watch, but 2:30, 5:30 in the morning, I'm either going to sleep at that time. Like, I can't wake up 5:30 anymore. I did that for years during the morning show, and it crushed me. So I just can't. I'm a night owl. I stay up late, but I'm not going to stay up to watch a 2:30 game for the whole game. So it's just unfortunate timing with that. But I think the other aspect, though, is not only the sports we watch, but we can't play. Like, I was thinking about this on Sunday. Sunday would have been my 9th and 10th softball game of the season. I played none, and that's something that I use to stay in shape, to quench the competitive juices. And I just love playing. And it's just like that's taken away too. So it's a lot of aspect of sports that have taken away. Everyone's talking about watching, attending, but, a lot of us still like to play. Even, I don't play golf, but I know a lot of people do play golf. And just all of that is taken away. Pick up basketball for some people. Just go to the park and, I have a friend, he goes to the gym and he plays basketball and he loves doing that. And we can't do any of that now. So it's not just professional sports, it's the ability for others to play as well.
Yeah. Well, we seem to be moving slowly but surely in that direction. Now let's talk about some of the stuff that's going on right now, because, we all have the hope still of a full NFL season, even though we don't know about training camps and when that's going to open. I feel like for the most part, we're using baseball, MLB, as the barometer for when we're going to end up getting sports back. Now, you could look at the NBA and listen to Charles Barkley and Shaquille O'Neal. Both of them were saying just trash the season. It's done. It's over. Don't put anybody at risk. It's just not worth it. But yet we look at baseball right now. They threw a 4th attempt at a plan to see if they could get ownership and players union to agree on it. It looks like that the league is approving this possibility of an 82 game season, that it's all based regionally. So the AL East would only play teams in the AL East and the NL East, and Central matches up with Central, West matches up with West. It kind of limits the amount of movement that that teams have to do, especially when you do have certain states who aren't going to allow it, and you're going to have to relocate teams into different areas. Like, where are the Blue Jays going to play if Toronto's not going to open it up and let them play there in the Rogers Center? So this is what we're looking at right now. What's your take on what's going to happen here? Like, do you believe in baseball?
I'm going to say, I don't know. Again, we've seen this is the 4th, 5th different proposal. Yeah. And, for me to say, oh yeah, this is going to happen, I have no idea. I hope it does. I'm praying for it. Obviously, a lot of the talk now is on the financials. Will the players agree to this? So they said it could get a little ugly. I think both sides have to realize, though, like, hey, this, you don't want to lose a season here, even if it's only 82 games. So hopefully they come to their senses, they come to an agreement. But then after that, say they do, then goes back to one of the points you made. Okay, well, Toronto can't play at home. What happens with the New York teams? What happens with the California teams? So now where are they going to play? And that opens up a whole nother issue. And certain states won't reopen, others will. So even if they do come to a disagreement, I mean, it's still not a lock that it's going to start with spring in June and then the season in July. There's still a lot of hurdles to overcome. And you've seen some players are kind of outspoken and still concerned about safety. I know Sean Doolittle was one of them. So there's still a lot here. I just hope that it gets done and that we move forward. I mean, there's just so much conflicting information out there with COVID-19. It's terrible.
It is. And that's one of the things. I mean, I'm doing a draft with the Mock Draft Army tonight for MLB, just to kind of get back into the swing of things, because I know that if this does get ratified, if this does actually happen, we're going to have a very, very short turnaround, and your rankings, my rankings, Bowden's rankings, the ultimate cheat sheet, everything is going to need a huge makeover based on a half a season and based on where the what the parks are. I mean, sure, I'm salivating over Mike Trout hitting in Colorado on a regular basis, right? Oh, see, I'm drooling already here. But I mean, there are definitely things that are going to need to be altered and need to change. So,
well, you know what?
I don't know.
He could miss that Coors Field series. His wife is pregnant.
He could miss that Coors Field series. His wife is pregnant. Boy, you're just shooting it down right now. First pick in the draft overall. Who you got? Trout or Acuna?
I might actually go Yelich.
Ooh.
I talked about it in January and February. I'm like, why is no one including Yelich in the conversation? Have we seen what he's done the last 2 years?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe people have said the back while he's had extended rest. The kneecap, certainly not an issue. So especially if they are going to play at home, I think he's in the conversation, definitely. Because even if maybe now again, shortened season, maybe they give him more of the green light. So, Trout, we're worried about the steals, obviously. But I really do think it's all close between those three. I've done a draft where I took Acuna 1. I took Yelich 2 in Tout Wars with OBP. A Trout went 1, obviously, because of OBP. But I took Yelich over Acuna. Probably people thought I was crazy. But, I mean, I don't understand why we're just, throwing Yelich away. He's been one of the best hitters in baseball over the last 2 years. And, he contributes in every category. So I might go Yelich there.
Well, and very intriguing also when you talk about the Central Divisions matching up. All of a sudden now it's like all these games against
Royals, Tigers,
Detroit pitching, Royals pitching.
So they said you only play your division, and I did see so that's going to be 16 games against each division team? That's 64 games right there. And
then you play the opposite division right there.
Times.
What's that?
And then you play the opposite NL East plays AL East 3 games each.
Yeah, no problem.
That's 15. So, wow. That sucks for the Mets, bro.
It does suck for the Mets,
because
right?
The division is so good. Nationals, Phillies, Braves, and then you got to face the Yankees and Rays. Sucks. Oh, even though they're expanding, actually, it doesn't hurt the Yankees, but the Yankees NL East, I mean, it's only 15 games, but those are good teams, man. You got to face the Nationals pitching.
Doesn't matter to me because literally when you watch this back, the look on your face when you realize just how much it sucks for the Mets is actually priceless. I'm going to freeze frame it. It's going to end up being my avatar on a number of different teams. There was genuine hurt right there. There was genuine hurt.
Can't catch a break. You figure shortened season, maybe they get in. I know they expanded the playoffs team to 14, but it's going to be tough for the Mets. So, yeah, it sucks for the Mets. You always get screwed, man.
Boo, boo, boo. Poor New York Metropolitans, right? Oh, you and Lisa Ann can sob away on Monday night. And
she's not going to – she doesn't take it like I do. It genuinely hurts me. She could just whatever.
Right. She's like, let's talk football. Well, now one of the other things, though, that you and Lisa Ann are going to could be out is basketball. Now, your thoughts on that? Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal both saying, it's funny because Shaq came out and said it the other day, and then they asked Barkley today. Barkley was like, I said this 3 weeks ago. And now the question is that, forget about just getting rid of the regular season, the 20 games left in there. They're talking about playoffs as well. What does that do to a league in general? Let's think about it because them and probably the NHL, very similar paths that they're going to take for this because they're in that same situation. How detrimental is that to the league, to the fans, if they do cancel it? I don't necessarily think that people will stop being basketball fans, but, all of a sudden your trust in the league kind of wanes a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the casual fan gets a little turned off. I think the hardcore fans will definitely come back. And, first of all, Shaq and Barkley making these comments. They're not even players, so they just cover the league. I don't see the reason to make that decision now. They only need about 2 months to finish the season. They can go straight to the playoffs. I've been saying this for a while. The 8th seed pretty much was determined in the Eastern Conference. Right. And in the West, there was a slight race. You had some teams getting hot, but you can just go straight to the playoffs. Some seeds were still up for grabs, maybe the 4 or 5 in the West. a little bit in the Eastern Conference between 3, 4, and 5, but not a big deal. So to me, you only need like 2 months, maybe a month and a half. So I think they could even wait. They could wait a while on this. There's been talk that, maybe they push the beginning of next season to Christmas. So you can get this done, July, August, September. I think you can realistically do it. I guess the big thing now is, where are the games going to be played? They're looking for centralized locations. So again, there's still a lot here. The NBA's been quiet. We haven't really heard any announcement from them. We've just heard former players coming out and saying things. So
right.
Again, I just hope they find a way to get it done because, they played a good portion of the season. And, obviously LeBron James probably has a lot to say. He doesn't want this season canceled. He's coming towards the end of his career. They're the 1 seed in the Western Conference right now, and the window is closing. So, he's the guy that definitely doesn't want this season to avoid the playoffs. So I just hope they find a way to get this done.
All right. Well, now I guess that kind of bodes the question of, do we just look ahead to football? Do we say that football stands the greatest chance of any sport of being a complete season, and therefore, from a fantasy standpoint, just put your eggs into the fantasy basket for football and not have to worry about what's my league going to do for NBA, or, we drafted, but nobody wants to, half the league doesn't want to do the draft again. Half the league says, yes, let's redo the draft. With all the complications that we're seeing with other sports right now, for fantasy, should we just kind of put our focus towards the NFL?
I think probably a lot of people have. I mean, right now for baseball, it's kind of difficult to hold any draft at this point. Obviously, if a decision is made and they give us a concrete date, I think you'll see some interest stirred up. But I also think a lot of people, 82 games, I don't know. Like, what do you do in a head-to-head league for 82 games? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's like, what, 12, 13 weeks maybe? I mean, what are you going to do? 10 weeks regular season, 2 weeks of playoffs? So, and again, I don't play any head-to-head leagues in baseball. I used to, points leagues, but now I don't. So how's that going to be done? That could turn people off. And an 82-game schedule is a major disadvantage for the skilled player. It really is. And I cannot imagine high-stakes players, and I've already talked to a couple, and this was, a 100-game schedule at that time. There's no way those guys are going to put up, not many of them. There might be a few, $1,600 on a league for 82 games. We've seen this every year. If the season was 82 games last year, Nationals wouldn't even have been in the playoffs, right? They won the whole damn thing. So fluky things can happen. You brought up Mike Trout. Mike Trout can, start slowly for 3 weeks. That's a big portion of the season. So I think it does change the dynamics in a major way for baseball. Basketball, I mean, no one was going to redraft anyway. The determination there is what to do with the season that was already played, where people paid and, we haven't had a champion. Football, obviously, it's easy to go into. Basketball drafts are flying right now. I've already, I'm in my third right now. And again, realistically, it looks like we could have a whole season there. Even if they have to push the season back, rumors have been mid-October, and they just take the first 4 weeks of the season, push it to the end. So, yeah, I mean, of course, again, of all sports, which one comes out looking the best? Football, like it always is, right? It's like you can't – the timing of everything, like it's crazy. It worked out perfectly for football. They got the spotlight with the NFL draft. They got a 3-hour show with the schedule, while every other sport gets shit on.
That is true. That is true. I mean, listen, football drives the bus. Have you ever had Fensty sing you the football song during breaks?
No.
Football drives the bus. Football. No baseball, just football. It's like when we got that Sirius XM mandate where the calendar flips to July and it's like, boom, nothing else. Yeah, it's May now. This is probably so. There's an executive out there who's feeling pretty good about with the way everything's going. Is every bit of content really has stemmed for football. Let's talk.
Do you think there'll be a big thirst for fantasy baseball drafts if it's an 82-game schedule?
I think there'll be. I don't know about a big thirst, but I think that there are going to be enough people who might do it, just in the sense of, what, I wasn't a baseball guy before because of the situation, the season, it's so long, it's such a grind, but maybe I try it out here now. if they're a seasoned football player, like if you're still one of those guys, if you're Bob from accounting and you're just joining the fantasy football league for the camaraderie,
Right.
chances are is that no, you're not going to try out baseball also because the two of them are going to be overlapping and you can only really focus on one. So I think you'll get the hardcore fantasy baseballers who will just give it a shot. I don't think high stakes, but just a reasonable enough shot.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. It would definitely be weird. 82 games, man, because I think part of the allure of baseball is the grind and the long season and churning it out. I've had leagues where I've won where my first 3 months were terrible. Yeah. So if that happens this year, I'm done like early. I mean, one year I won Tout Wars. I was like in 10th, 11th place early in the season. Like I had to just come from behind it, and that can't happen anymore. Like you talk about exhibiting very little patience. It's going to be like football. You can't wait around anymore, right? That's a bad week. You're done. Yeah, I got to cut them. You're going to see superstars get cut after 2-3 weeks. It's going to be nuts if we get it, hopefully.
Oh, yeah. I could definitely see people just violently overreacting in fantasy baseball and just doing that. Listen, I did an interview years ago with Todd Wellemeyer. He had gone from the Cardinals organization to the Giants organization. And he and I sat down, for about 15, 20 minutes. And I mean, what he said made perfect. He said, 1 month. That's all you need to turn around your baseball season or to tank your baseball season. One really good month can save everything. One really garbage month could ruin everything that you've done. So,
I mean, Wade Miley last year had like 3 starts that ruined a really good season for him at the end of the year. Exactly. So, I mean, all of a sudden, if somebody goes in the tank, and then there's the other strategy. What do you look for in players? Do you look for guys who are notoriously strong first half players? The problem with that is, what if that slow first half, and Corey Kluber's example of it, was weather related? April, May, where it's cold. Now we're starting in July where there's no weather issues. So there's so many variables that go into it. Honestly, like, it's really hard to come up with a strategy where you say this is it. We're not going to do it. Like I'm listening. Tell me if you have one. But there's so many variables that go into this that's why I'm saying for the skilled player, it's a huge disadvantage.
Yeah, absolutely. You're gonna see a lot more lucky championships in fantasy baseball this year with a shortened schedule than you're gonna see true hardcore grinding. Which, again, there's just maybe that's one of the things that we're gonna hate to see is that maybe fantasy baseball does take a significant hit from this, because next year, the question is what happens and when does spring training start up? And if they do the 82 game schedule and they play through the end of November, what the pitchers who have just now all of a sudden, how much time off are they going to get?
Wait. Am I missing something with my math? How are they playing at the end of November? If you're doing an 81 game schedule, there's no All-Star game, there's no All-Star break. So right. July, August, September, you get through the regular season. Now, the playoffs, I saw, they're going to 14 teams. So how much longer is the playoffs going to take, I guess? Maybe it can go into November, but they should be able to finish the regular season by end of September. Playoffs start October. So I guess it depends on the expansion of the playoffs, how much they played in November. Right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, because you're talking about a playoff expansion, and instead of a wild card play-in game, now all of a sudden maybe you're talking about a best 3 out of 5.
Okay. Well, they haven't revealed any of the specifics of that yet, right?
No, they have not.
Okay.
No.
My guess is
I'm sure that bomb's going to drop soon.
Yeah, probably. I mean, look, again, we'll take it. You worry about next season at that point. But yeah, we talked about this last week, that's going to be the big thing. You're going to have starting pitchers. What's the max? 16 starts? The best guys going, 105, 110 innings, and then next year you're going to ask them to go to 200. So that's going to be the big thing for next year.
Yeah, listen, and and that's the one thing that I think everybody keeps forgetting about, the ripple effects into the following seasons. You could finish out NBA and do the playoffs and stuff like that, but now you're going to deal with the repercussions of players who, love taking off a back-to-back, and you're going to tell them that your off season is now a month and a half long and get ready for Christmas time. We're going to start doing that. I mean, however they decide for it to happen, you're going to have stuff that's going to spill into next year. Like, even if you're talking about football, and they have to like change the schedule around, and all of a sudden they're going to the end of February, and it's the end of February. And then how does college football go with that? It's a lot. It's a lot to deal with. And this is, I guess, whatever. It's unprecedented times for all of us. And it's going to be a lot of trial and error. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of unhappy people, and there are going to be a lot of apathetic people as well. Like, I don't think anybody's going to walk away from this being like, well, we solved all those problems, didn't we? We feel good about this. I don't think anybody feels like that.
Yeah, I've been saying it for the longest. Like, whatever they come up with is just not, like anything in life, you're just not going to appease everyone. And in this, you're probably going to have a lot more people upset, but you got to just do the best thing that we can. I mean, it's no one foresaw this coming to this extent. So if it trickles into next season, they'll just have to figure it out.
They definitely will. Well, let's do a little football talk here as we cruise through and talk about, like you said, best ball, that you're already in the middle of 3. I'm in the middle of I think I'm in the middle of 4. I did another mock draft for somebody last night. Got another mock draft coming up later on today. So lots happening over here. Recent best ball strategies that you seem to be taking a look at, because one of the things that you have actually been a proponent of is not reaching on these rookies because of the problems of not having camp right now and not really getting to take a look at these guys. So how are you handling your best ball drafts right now?
Yeah, I mean, look, again, with the running backs, I don't worry as much, but the variable that we don't know is, what are these guys doing? They haven't been able to meet with their teams. It's one thing to have Zoom meetings with the coaches, go over playbooks and everything, but we don't know who's working out, who's not, who's staying in shape, who's eating well, who's playing video games all day, who's sleeping all day, who's actually working out. We don't know.
Sleeping all day, playing video games.
Yeah, the life, right? It's like, oh, I got that signing bonus. Cool. So, again, for the running backs, I think it's a little bit easier. I just don't see and the receivers, I'm willing to take a couple if they fall at the right value, because none of them will go in top 30, which I think is correct. But I'm willing to take a running back in the right spot. Obviously, I'd like Edwards-Helaire, but he's going so early, man. You can't even get him at the end of the second round now. Like,
he went 10th overall in a 12-team draft last night.
Wow. Oh, my goodness. It's crazy. So, yeah, I mean, there's a thirst for these rookie running backs, and they're being taken very, very early, most of them. But what I like to do is at least get one running back, if I can, in the first round, depending on where I'm drafting. And I think for best balls, trying to get 2 running backs in the first 3 rounds, and then I'll kind of just fill it in later. Usually in redraft leagues, I just want 1 stud running back, and then I'll take, if the receiver values there, I'll load up on wide receivers. Like, it's a little bit more difficult to do in best ball because you can't make any moves. See, I have confidence in redraft leagues that I'll figure it out. I did it last year in the FSGA. I took Barkley at 2, and I just went receivers, tight end. Like, my RB2 was no one great, and I kind of just filled it throughout the season, and I was able to win the league. So that's the general way I approach the redraft leagues, because you're seeing the running backs are getting pushed up. And, I don't want to be in a position in a draft where like, oh, okay, well, I have to take a running back now. What's going to be there later, when you're passing on those receivers that are going to give you production? So in a best ball, though, I think it's kind of imperative if you can get 2 running backs in the first 3 rounds, because they are just flying off the board. I mean, you're seeing some drafts with 10, 11 running backs in the first round.
Yeah, and I agree. One of the things that, I've learned playing best ball over the last few years has been, loading up on the running backs, because obviously injuries happen and you worry about, who's the bell cow and too many split, tandem backfields. When it comes to wide receivers, I've kind of been pushing them off a little bit more, only for the fact that, well, I mean, it's incredibly deep position, and it's deep with this new draft class. It's even crazy deeper than it has been in years past. So I look at that, and you figure, okay, listen, you know what? I just need one. I need my wide receivers. I need a guy to pop off this week, and if you throw enough against the wall, something's going to stick. So if you load up on running backs early, you get that top tight end, maybe the Kelsey or the Waller or somebody like that. Find yourself a solid QB who you like. I've been, looking at guys like Kyler Murray and Josh Allen this year, and then just pounding the wide receiver position afterwards. Because if I walk away with, 7, 8 wide receivers in a 20 to 30, person draft, I keep myself covered for tight end. I keep myself covered for team defense or whatever. But if I end up with like 7 or 8 wide receivers, I only need 3 to do something each week. And that, I kind of I feel like it increases my opportunity there to have that, because you're more likely to have receivers who are hit and miss as opposed to running backs who, touch the ball a little bit more often.
Yeah, I mean, the only complicated part with the running backs is there's very few backs that are 3-down backs now. You got a lot of splits. So, you're, especially when you get to like the rounds 5 to 10 area, you're looking at backs that are not getting heavy volume every week. But if you have 1 or 2 early on, you can live with it, because some of these backs will get you 12, 13 points. And that's the thing, too. We're always looking for big weeks. Sometimes you need just the stable guys that are going to give you a high floor every week. It's true with the receivers, though, because there's always 3-4 big weeks for certain receivers. You just don't know when they're going to happen, and you don't have to worry about that in best ball. And in redraft leagues, it's a little bit more difficult, because even a guy like Deshaun Jackson, if you go look at his game logs, there's sometimes you're like, he went off against this defense. This was a tough matchup. Then he has an easy matchup where in redraft, I'm going to use him this week. Great matchup. And he has 2 for 31. And you're like, what? Best ball, you don't have to worry about that. So even a guy like Will Fuller, you bring up Will Fuller, injuries, he's never healthy. Well, he's probably going to play at least 8, 9, 10 games, right?
And he's going to pop off like 5 of those games.
And without DeAndre Hopkins there, he should command most of the targets. And we've seen him already have big games. And Deshaun Watson is very good throwing the deep ball, and they have a good rapport. Fuller, he's going to miss games just based on his history, but you got to think he plays at least 8, 9 games, right? And, he could pop off for the majority of them. And in best ball, that, can help you.
Yeah, those are guys like Deshaun Jackson who pop off like that every so often. Those are good guys. Marvin Jones is always a favorite of mine in best ball.
I think he's underrated in redraft leagues too.
Yeah, definitely.
I know he's 30 years old, but if you look at the games he played with Galladay last year, those stats were very close. And he's played with Stafford now for a few years. He's a red zone guy. I know people are like, 30 years old for receivers, and we've seen it. AJ Green over 30 falling off. It's going to happen for Julio. I don't know if it's going to happen this year, but remember, these receivers, it's not a gradual decline. It is just sudden. And right. Julio's 31? He's been banged up. And, sometimes we want to get off early. And I don't know if it's going to happen for Julio this year. And I've seen him slip to the end of the second round because of all the running backs going. I'm like, wow, I'm picking 2 now. Julio went right before me in the second round. I'm like, oh, man. But, I'm just saying, I would not be surprised, and I'm not calling it. I'm still going to have Julio as a top 5 receiver. I'm still willing to draft him. But it would not shock me if, this is the year, all of a sudden, Julio goes, disappears. Just because 31, big body, foot injuries. We've already seen it with A.J. Green, right? T.Y. Hilton's 30, 31 now, too. Smaller guy with double injuries. So, you do have to worry about that with some of these receivers. But, Marvin Jones, to me, is so undervalued right now. That's a guy you're getting around 8, round 9. There's not much. It's Marvin Jones, Galladay, and Hockenson. That's it. I'm not worried about Amendola, And, they'll throw their running backs. But Marvin Jones, to me, even in redraft leagues. But, in best ball, too, in case he does get the injury bug, that guy's going to put up big games. I mean, he's put up 120 and 2 touchdown games, and you love that in best ball.
It's phenomenal in best ball. You take a look at the bonus of taking a look at the schedule, and you try and figure out, okay, these are the games where Kenny Galladay is going to end up with a shutdown corner on him. Now, regardless of whether or not that corner actually shuts down Kenny Galladay, you at least know that Marvin Jones becomes that primary target all of a sudden. If you track all of Marvin Jones's games that he totally popped off last year, look at who the corner was on Kenny Galladay that game. And it was an easy pattern to detect early on in the season. and it helped out. So big fan of Marvin there. I'll tell you what, man, we should do. I'm talking to our friend Greg Ambrosius over at the NFBC, NFFC, Sports Hub Technologies, getting in on some BB10. So maybe we turn like a Wednesday table that discussion into a draft where we actually just invite everybody in and we run ourselves a little best ball draft right then and there on the show.
I'm in. I'm already doing them, so
I might as well. I might show some enthusiasm.
What's your clock? 2 hours?
Oh my God, my clock is like 45 seconds at the most.
Wait, so you're not doing any slow ones?
Oh, the ones that I'm doing right now?
Yeah.
Oh, they're varying, which is always a nice treat. I've got one that's a 3-hour clock. I've got one that's a 4-hour clock. And then I've got two that are 8-hour clocks.
I know you hate the 8 hours, but my 8-hour one finally finished today. You know when we started the draft?
About a month and a half ago.
April 19th, bro.
Yeah.
And there were so many people intentionally draining the clock for 8 hours. That's the problem I have with it. But yeah, the ones that I'm in now are 4 hours.
Well, I say we do some best ball drafts. We do them live on the live streams here at Fantasy Alarm TV. We get a bunch of FA Nation people in on this action as well. And you know what? I mean, we do an hour of coverage. Maybe we just we stretch it out into an hour and a half. We could do a 20-rounder in an hour and a half with some decent time, right?
Yeah.
See, there you go. I did the draft I did last night. Somebody was like, "Oh, well, I got to do a hit on ESPN, later on at like 9:30." I was like, "Listen, we are 12 fantasy industry people, all seasoned vets. If we can't get through a 17-round NFL draft inside of an hour, then you all should just be fired and not do this for a living anymore." 45 minutes later, we were done with the draft.
Yeah. I mean, again, it should be like that most of the time.
Gotta slap them around a little bit.
Yeah, that's what you got to do. You got to be a little disciplinarian, let people know.
Well, there you go, guys. That's what you can look for in the coming weeks. We'll make some announcements. We'll also be doing some Beat the Experts ones, so you'll be able to just jump in on a best ball draft with a nice 6-hour clock with just you and Adam Ronis. Adam Ronis and 11 people who just want to beat Ronis. So we'll be doing all of those in the coming weeks. So stay tuned and check it out. Give a big thanks to John and Pember, our producer for today's action, giving Matt Sells a little bit of relief. Matt Sells probably sleeping. Probably told his wife to take the kids out for like 5 hours and just let him take a nap finally. But yeah, that's going to do it for us here today. Big thanks to all of you for tuning in. Check us out on our YouTube page. Go to Fantasy Alarm in the search box and subscribe there. All our videos are there. FantasyAlarm.com, our Facebook page, and of course, at Fantasy Alarm on the old Twitter machine. Adam, some final thoughts before we get the hell out of here?
Let's hope this baseball thing gets done ASAP.
Fingers crossed. Let's hope that definitely happens. All right. Well, thanks so much to all of you for tuning in. For Adam Ronis, I'm Howard Bender. This has been Fantasy Alarm TV. We'll catch you next time.